And we see these attacks happening over and over again. And you think to yourself, we need better policing. Here in Ireland, the better option for policing seems to be to go to the actual refugee camps themselves and give our new neighbours the job of policing the Irish people. What the media are not telling people, and what they love to hide, is the difference between a peaceful protest and a riot. I can tell you the difference right now. It's the colour of the perpetrator's skin.
No shit.
We're going to have a look at how the antagonisation tactics are being stepped up by our beautiful leaders in Western countries, how they seem to go after the indigenous people and really put the boot on the neck. Before we get into it, if you could do me a favour and subscribe to the channel, share it if you can, like the video, put on the bell notification to get notified every time I do a new upload. I'd really appreciate that. And thank you very much to the new subscribers that have come in over the last week or so. It's absolutely awesome, and let's keep pushing. Cheers. Look across social media. I don't watch mainstream media, so I'm not seeing much of that. But you'll see that the coverage will be about the riots or the protests, or how they're kind of amalgamated together in some strange way if the person is white. And obviously, if they're proponents for the cultural enrichment that we all love and adore, like in LA at the moment, then it is a peaceful protest. If we actually look at what transpired in France last week, we were told that it was boisterous teenagers who were a little bit excited about the Champions League final and just showed that by going out having a good time. What actually transpired was thousands of our new neighbours, of the cultural enrichers, made their way out onto the street and just attacked indigenous people, indigenous businesses, and destroyed the bedrock of the cities that have given them refuge. That's what actually happened. And it would be standard enough for the media and the politicians and the do-gooders to choose the side of gaslighting and propaganda in these type of situations. We've seen this over and over and over again. And I really don't know what else has to happen for people to wake up. I believe the number is somewhere in the vicinity of 4 million illegal Mexican immigrants in the state of California. And Trump finally decided to take out the finger and move some of these people back over the border, because they're dangerous criminals that congregate, don't assimilate, and make every city, neighbourhood, small town an absolute nightmare for the working class people who live there. ICE roll in, and all of a sudden we have beautiful, peaceful protests again. Just like the summer of 2020, the summer of love with George Floyd. Them beautiful, virtuous protests that burnt down billions, and so many people lost their lives for the Black Lives Matter movement. It's so crazy, because if you can remember back, it was during the time of the pandemic. We weren't allowed to walk outside our door. We weren't allowed to go to work. We weren't allowed to go anywhere, really. Unless you took the state injection, then you were exempt of all that. If you didn't, you were excommunicated. But there was the time where everybody, whether you were injected or not, were under the boot of totalitarianism, and we couldn't go anywhere. The police were at the corner of your neighbourhood stopping you. But you were allowed to go out and protest for Black Lives Matter and for George Floyd, if you remember, especially in Dublin. You remember there was thousands of Gombeans out bending the knee in Dublin for some black junkie criminal.
Adding voices from Dublin to those of demonstrators around the world outraged by the death of George Floyd in the US.
Black junkie criminal.
Organisers had called for a socially distanced demonstration. Though many demonstrators wore face masks and coverings. The crowd made its way from O'Connell Street to the US Embassy in Ballsbridge, where thousands joined the chants calling for justice for George Floyd.
Not only were they allowed out for that, they were actually promoted by the government to get out there and protest. But you weren't allowed to protest the antiquated, draconian lockdowns. You were far right when you did that. That wasn't the beginning, but it was the embers of where we've ended up now in terms of peaceful protest versus riot. Last weekend we saw thousands and thousands of Irish people showing up in Cork City, pushing back against the illegal immigration racket. They have had enough. People have had enough. This is happening all across Europe. Did the media cover this? No, they didn't. They covered a pro-Palestine parade in the same town and mentioned the fact that there was a few far-right agitators having a protest on the other side of the city and that it disrupted traffic. This wasn't shocking by any means to see them totally hide and gaslight the people who actually still read them rags or watch the TV. Because if you're one of them people, you deserve to be lied to the way you are. Just last night in Northern Ireland, we have another story of one of our new neighbours, one of the cultural enrichment type guys. He decided to assault a young Irish girl up there. And as you would expect, The natives don't like that sort of stuff. It's vile, it's disgusting, we shouldn't be forced to live with it. So they get out and they do what they do on the streets. And of course, whilst the media are trying to keep it quiet because that could be the boiling point, that could send everybody over the edge, everyone whose senses are being tempered down just to see what's happening up there. Of course it's going to be called a riot today. Far-right agitators got out on the street last night and rioted. That's what's going to be said today. And everything will be directed in terms of protection for the attacker of our new neighbour. And this is what we've seen over and over and over again. We saw it in Southport, we've seen it in the Republic of Ireland, we've seen it in France, Italy, Spain, Sweden, you name it, name a Western country, and that's what we have. If you think about it from the angle of Ireland, okay, why are they doing this? They're doing this because they're under duress from the EU. If you don't take in a certain amount of migrants, we will fine you and we will take funding off of you. So it doesn't matter whether you oppose it or not. The people who work for you in terms of politicians, councillors, people within the government, they're never ever going to listen to you. Unless they take in more migrants, they're going to get fined and lose their job. And it's all about self-preservation and protecting themselves. These absolute scumbags have sold out the Irish people, and the same with the British and the French. They are all being sold out by their politicians who are allegedly supposed to work for us. They gaslight us, they propagandize us, they hide us, they quell everything that tries to move, and they keep everything quiet. So how is it going to change, and when is it going to change? I came across this very small thread and I want to read it to you. It's from Fisher King. Look at the cars burning in LA and think how many similar scenes we've observed over the years come out of the UK, France, Germany. All these countries had mass third world immigration, uncontrolled or unvetted from different populations, but it all turned out the same. It doesn't matter if they come from North Africa, Turkey, South America, or even Pakistan. It just matters that they come in large numbers, they don't assimilate, they don't respect the rules of the host state, and they pull the same shit. It's the process itself of bringing in huge numbers of people to satisfy economic imperatives of some people. That is the problem. No one takes frictions seriously until it's too late. And so in Japan, little kids can still ride the subway or go down the road and buy milk. It's a 3-tweet thread that I think says so much. Because if we look at countries that oppose mass migration, like he said, Japan, the indigenous people and their children and their grandchildren are still capable of walking into their local town and buying some groceries. They're still capable of going to their local parks and having some fun. It's still a possibility to enjoy your country, your town, like you have for hundreds and thousands of years. But it's been ripped away from us by politicians, bureaucrats and media members, all under the same umbrella of propaganda, totalitarianism. And most people see it now. We can actually see it. But to add insult to injury, what they seem to be doing is antagonizing us further. So our new neighbours are shipped in here to break down the bedrock of our society. We have to sit back and allow our natives to be attacked, and sometimes even worse. We're not supposed to open our mouth because that makes us far-right agitators and we could end up in prison. And we see these attacks happening over and over again, and you think to yourself, we need better policing. Here in Ireland, the better option for policing seems to be to go to the actual refugee camps themselves, into the IPAS centres, and give our new neighbours, the majority of which are dangerous, unvetted people, the job of policing the Irish people. So now we not only have the media, our politicians, and the automatons that actually watch and buy into that shit, but now we actually have our attackers policing us and putting the boot down on our neck. Here we have our Garda Commissioner denying the fact that this is actually transpiring.
These recruitment sessions held by An Garda Síochána since 2022 at least.
So in IPAS centres?
Yeah. Explicitly so.
How would we do that? No, I'm quite confused because, as I say, Irish EU citizen stamp 4 are prohibited from joining the Garda Síochána as a Garda member.
We need the Muslim community represented in An Garda Síochána. We need a lot of different communities. It can't be all Irish men and women. Does that make sense?
Hi, my name is Akona Kaga. I'm attached to 243, Class A, in the Garda College in Templemore.
And hi, my name is Melissa. I'm attached to intake 243 and I am Class A here in the Garda College in Templemore.
And in terms of going forward from here with a positive or a negative outlook, some people will say that by choosing to be called not racist, we have given up our countries. There's a serious element of truth in that statement, but also we have the positive side of that, like we saw in Cork on the weekend, where thousands of people got out in the street and have woken up and are waking people up currently as we speak, and that is a positive going forward. The more this stuff gets called out, the more light gets shed on the Garda Commissioner and our politicians and the EU, and the more we see beautiful, peaceful protests from our new neighbours, and they destroy the bedrock of our culture and of our cities and of our society, and as they attack more and more of our indigenous children, hopefully the gombeans that are addicted to turning on the mainstream news will wake up. Hopefully. Let me know if any of that made sense. Maybe hit like, subscribe and share if it did. Cheers.